Hey, Keith Kelly here for the 7-Minute Podcast, Extreme Faith in Jesus. I'm with Go Ministries, and I'm here in Clarksville, Tennessee. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a book I wrote, Focus on Jesus and Not the Storm, God's Non-Negotiables to Christians in America. Insider tells all. I'm going to talk a little bit about chapter 4. Chapter 4 talks about Christians must be world Christians. There's a big world out there. We're in the United States of America. One of the richest countries in the world. We only account for, I think, about 5% of the whole world's population. There's a lot of people out there that have never heard about Jesus Christ. There's tons of people that have never even heard about Jesus Christ. And so our whole idea is to, as a world Christian, is to be concerned about that. There's about 3.5 billion people that is, believe it or not, has never heard about Jesus Christ. A lot of people they can't really fathom that because of the fact that, technology and, there's a lot of ways that people should be able to hear about Christ. But, there's a lot of closed countries. There's countries out there that will not allow people to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. In fact, if you get caught in some of these countries preaching the gospel, they will kill you. We've seen many times if you look at my Facebook page on We Will Go Ministries, you'll see that I have a picture there of that devastating sight of seeing those Christians from Egypt being paraded out on the beach and being beheaded by ISIS because they would not denounce the name of Jesus Christ. And so we need to also be concerned about persecuted Christians. There's a lot of Christian brothers and sisters out there that are being persecuted. And it's interesting that in America, although we want to hear about, I think the name of it is Jot Radio. It's some of the largest conglomerates of Christian radios in America. They said that the number one topic that people like hearing about is persecuted Christians. And it's amazing that we don't give as much support to them as you would expect. Even world missions, we don't do a lot of support for world missions compared to everything else we do. We have phenomenal big churches that have, they have drama departments, they have, child care, they have all kinds of different classes in music, and but there's very little money that really goes comparatively to missions work for the mission field of people that had never heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I really think we should change that dynamic. My goal is to ignite excitement, to like ignite a fire on the Christians about, being called to be laborers for the harvest. The harvest in these last days. We're living in the last days. There's end time signs that have been fulfilled, been over-fulfilled, they've been fulfilled for a long time. I remember the urgency it was that Jesus Christ was coming back to earth again in the 60s and the 70s, how urgent it was. You needed to get saved now. See, and the thing about it is, it's the same urgency is there. And especially as we get older, I got to say, when I was 15, I'm 65 now. Man, that's 50 years ago. So I heard about Jesus coming back to earth again 50 years ago. And I still believe he's still coming back soon. And so it's so important for us as Christians to be concerned about other people. That we need to stand in the gap for the ones that have never heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there's some wonderful organizations out there that really hone in on standing in the gap and doing world missions. There's a long list of them, Frontiers, the ministry team, and, there's all kinds of them out there that, Wycliffe Bible, you're talking about JARS, you're talking about, you can go on, SIM, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Got African Americans in Missions Conference. A lot of times, especially in the African American church, there's not a lot of missions, work going on. Now, you might be a part of a large denomination, and maybe the denomination has a focus on somewhat of missions, but your church in your local community doesn't have any kind of focus on missions. They really are concerned about, and it's rightfully so. It's okay to be concerned about the people here in America that have never heard the gospel. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of people that don't even know that Christ exists. And we definitely need to be a part of that because he's coming so soon. There's a lot of end time signs. There's a lot of history being made right now that's a part of the end time signs. I mean, just this whole thing in Israel and Jerusalem becoming now is the capital of Israel, and that's been a long time since that's happened, and there's so much end time signs. And I'd like to get maybe one of the brothers that really is astute about the end time signs to talk to us on this podcast, on my podcast. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of things that I really want to cover, but the main thing is that we have to be world Christians. We have to stand in the gap for those that don't have the means or never heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we have to do everything in our power to make sure that we get the word to them, even if we have to support the groups that are actually doing the stealth witnessing. Like one of the most beautiful things that I've heard is where they actually put Bibles in North Korea on weather balloons, and they push the balloons to go in South Korea, or vice versa. I'm sorry about that. South Korea is the free part of Korea. They put weather balloons and they send them from South Korea to the North Korea that is a closed country to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that is phenomenal. People are doing like some real stealth type of ways of getting the gospel out. And man, I want to be a part of supporting that. I mean, it's a little bit difficult for some people just to show up in Afghanistan. It'd be like almost, if I know I can't just jump in and train and go to Afghanistan and start witnessing, testifying on the streets. You have to be smart and stealth and prayerful. You got to be prayerful because you want to tell people the gospel of Jesus Christ and you want to get it out. But you got to be bold though. But that's just the way it is. So this is Keith Kelley on the 7-Minute Podcast. Stay tuned for the second one. I'm talking about chapter 4 of the book, Focus on Jesus and Not the Storm, God's Non-Negotiables to Christians in America. God bless.